coach. Okay, so next up we do have Lita, head to toe coaching. So why don't you go ahead and take the stage?
Great. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for being here. I'm going to be talking a little bit about exercise as it is a key health pillar in our wellness. And I like to have people think about exercise, not just like I've got to go out to exercise to lose weight or for a specific purpose, but rather as a well-being thing. So physical activity isn't just about burning the calories, right? Sometimes we get caught up in the game of I exercise so I could eat more, right? I exercise so I could have that cookie. We do want to disengage from that, right? We want to move and exercise because we love to, and then we want to eat because we need to. And so exercise is really about strengthening our bodies, enhancing our mental well-being, getting better sleep, reducing stress, and sustaining really a good metabolic health. I'd like this to be a little interactive. Who now is on a regular exercise regime? So if you could raise your hand. Okay. Do you know what the requirements are, suggested requirements are for exercise?
Okay. Over 30 minutes a day.
Okay, we'll jump into that close. Yeah. And what's interesting, we'll talk about that. So I also like to split up movement into exercise and movement. So movement is like going out and walking the dog, doing some light gardening, vacuuming, mowing the lawn. Those are daily movement activities, and they are a critical component of exercise and movement, physical movement. And when we do that, we're decompressing from our day, right? We're de-stressing. Perhaps we're getting some vitamin D because we're outside in the sun. We're walking our dog, right? And maybe there's connection, right? You're talking to your husband or a friend as you're walking the dog, or you're just outside moving. And that enables us to get the connection with key people. And sometimes when you decompress, that's when the creativity happens. That's when that aha moment that you're working through a problem might come, is when you're not as stressed. So that's movement, and we need that. Now, the exercise part is really the working out part, and we need that part too for disease reversal and prevention. We need it for weight management. And so we'll go into the requirements. It is recommended that we have 150 minutes of moderate intensity weekly. The key to that is moderate intensity. So that's 5 times a day for 30 minutes. Do you know what moderate intensity means? There is a way to calculate.
Heart rate?
Yeah, it is based off a heart rate. So what you do is you take your resting heart rate, you divide it in half, and then you add back in your resting heart rate. So for example, let's say your resting heart rate is 60. I don't do math in public, so I'm going to keep it easy. It's 60. You divide that in half, so that's 30. Now you take the 30 and add your 60, and that means your heart rate has to hit a minimum of 90. Okay, and that's generally pretty easy to get into. If you're out walking a dog, you could do what I do call it is pickups. You may have to not have the dog smell the flowers along the way, but you'll do a pickup to get your heart rate up. So that those little activities in while you're moving can help you. So that's a requirement, is 150 minutes. Research shows, though, that the more minutes you get per week and the higher intensity, your risk for diseases, cancer, heart, diabetes decreases. So what I'm sharing with you are the minimum requirements. Next is strength training. Who strength trains? Raise your hand. Good. Do you strength train in the gym with weights, or do you use body weight movement?
Strength training with weights.
Yeah. Most of us think that we need to strength train with weights, right? And that is a block for some people, right? Oh, I don't know how to move the weight. I can't get to the gym, or I don't have the weights. Body weight strength training is great. So squats, push-ups, dips, very basic movements are all great, can be done at home. And the key to that is slow and controlled. The slower you go, the more strength you're going to build. So you want to get into at least 2 strength training sessions per week. All right. Who stretches? Yeah. Stretching is critical. And it really balances our body out because we become imbalanced people, right? We all have had maybe an injury or some sort of trauma. And if we don't work through that, we become imbalanced. So we're stacked. And if you move like the Jenga game, one of those little pieces out, you start to move imbalanced, and stretching really helps that. And it doesn't have to be a yoga class again. I've been in and out of yoga, hasn't connected with me. So I keep trying new stretching modalities. But I do recommend that you stretch at least 10 minutes a day. Because if you start stretching, then you're apt to stretch 20 minutes or 30 minutes, right? Because the struggle is to start, right? Who has that struggle? Starting. So if you start and you move, and there's a lot of online programs that are inexpensive for you to follow, like Eccentrics is a program that I've been following. It's really about freeing up the fascia and getting movement. I'm a senior citizen and I've been doing endurance events, and I have become glued together. I've become very stiff. And so now I'm really working on elongating and releasing the fascia. But all of this is really great for your wellness and your diseases and metabolic conditions. So most of us on the phone here are past the beginner stage. So when I encourage people to start exercising or keep exercising, who moves and lifts in a way that makes them feel good and that they love? Yeah, because if I coach somebody and say, go run, right? Because we often associate like exercise with leaving our door and going running. But if you hate it, are you going to do it? Yeah. So find what you love, right? You may explore and find out you're a group exercise person, or maybe you're not. Maybe you like Zumba. I love Zumba, but they're usually going right and I'm going left. And then I get a good giggle because I just don't get it, but I have a lot of fun. I also recommend getting outside, getting sun, feeling the air, looking up at the sky. I also do recommend to not only exercise outside as much as you can, but to get outside and take your shoes off and ground yourself to the earth. We need to be grounded. We've lost that connection to the earth because we're always wearing shoes when we're outside. So take some time after a run or after you're outside, whether it's cycling or I wear a weighted vest to walk around the neighborhood. I'm sure my neighbors think I'm a bit loony because they see me carrying odd objects, doing funny things. But after that, I always take my shoes off and stand on the ground to connect myself. Always focus on form. Form is important. And we want to move in all planes of motion. So we want to move forward and backward, which is where we spend most of our time. We want to move side to side, and we want to move diagonally. I'm going to do some exercises because sitting is the new disease. How many have heard that? Because it's really becoming, yeah. Why? We're hunched over, right? So we're structurally changing. We're becoming very closed in the front. So there's a lot of things that you could do while you're seating. And for Trevor and Karina, you could do these standing up too. But you could do these when you're on the phone, on a Zoom call like this. And so we're just going to go through a few of them. So if you sit on the edge of your chair, and you could do it standing, we're going to do some calf raises. And I know you can't see me, so so if you do a calf raise, so you stand up and you do a calf raise, when you come down, do a thump, 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 because that helps get that blood moving up into your body. So normally for people who are a little inactive, and if you're sitting in your chair, you do your calf raise, and then you hit a dunk dunk. And that will just help get that blood moving. So another one that you could do while you're standing is just do some leg raises, or if you're seated, just take your right leg and just raise it up. You're going to raise it from the knee and just bring it up. So these are assuming that you're sitting. So you could do some leg raises. So that's going to activate your quads. And again, and you could do side leg raises. You could do knee ups if you're standing. So if you're on the phone chit-chatting and you could do some knee ups. I can't quite. So you could do some knee ups, right? So you could do things while you're on the phone, marching, doing knee ups, things like that. Movement starts with your ankles. So I always encourage ankle circles. So stand on one leg, hold the countertop if you need to, but do some ankle circles and think about your toes going around a clock. You're going to try to hit 12, 1, 2, 3, all the way around the clock. And you might find that you miss. Sometimes I miss 9 to 12 sometimes. So focus of keeping that circle around the clock, go both directions, and then do your ABCs. So with your foot, create the letter A, create the letter B, create the letter C, and then D, and E. And that will help build ankle strength because running, movement everything starts with our feet. Neck rotations, just lean to one side and very slowly honor yourself and circle. And I hope you can't actually hear the crunching of my neck through my microphone. So if it cackles and talks to you, snap, crackle, pops, that's okay. That's what we want. That means you're moving. And now you want to do some shoulder shrugs up, down, shoulder shrugs forward and backward. So again, we want to open up our front chest, forward, backward. And then I like a standing or a seated cat-cow. So you seated, let me go through that first. You're going to come to the edge of the chair. You're going to think about taking your belly button and pulling it back, dropping your head and concaving. And then start with your hip, push that forward, push your chest out, and then roll the head back. If you need to hold on to the countertop, you could do that, but you're going to concave and then open up. How's that feeling, guys?
Actually feels really good to like move back and forth like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Because we don't, right? We're sitting like this too much. So yeah, open that up. And then lastly, take your fingers. A lot of us have carpal tunnel. We spend too much time on our phones. Open. And then you can do a like clench, circle, nice and slow. And then put your hands up and do the circle. So even rotating your hands and doing the clenching will work different muscles. So those are just some exercises that we could do while we're seated or standing. If you don't need to be on a Zoom call, some of us need to not be pacing and walking around. But I think at the end of this, on my website, Dreaming It, Doing It, you can download or join the newsletter and you get a stretching guide that goes through some of these exercises. So that's kind of it. When we're starting out, there is a progression, but you want to start with stabilization, right? And there is a way that you can move forward from 2 feet to one leg and just work on stabilization. Because if we're more advanced in our programs, if we don't have the basics, then we're apt to hurt ourselves later on because we're not moving in the right way. That is a very quick introduction to movement and exercise. Any questions?
I thought those were really great to start off with. Yeah.
Is there a different recommendation if you are type 2 diabetic for exercise, or is it just basic, like the basic recommendation that you stated at the beginning?
Yeah, there are some maybe things to look out for. So if you have neuropathy, you want to watch out for your feet. Mm-hmm. So maybe sometimes walking or running or things like that are too hard. I suggest to get in a pool. Pool work is amazing. You get so much cardio and a lot of strength out of pool work, and it doesn't have the same impact on your joints. And I do recommend two things. I recommend what's called long, slow endurance. My husband's type 2 diabetic and we'd go for an hour and a half walk. The next day, his glucose was always 40 points less. Just from that long, slow endurance. But if you don't have the time for that longer walk, I would do a HIIT, high intensity interval. I would start off with 30 seconds, literally 20 seconds, 30 seconds, and give yourself time to recover. So high intensity will also just burn through the glucose. When I do endurance events, or the best time to eat more of a carbohydrate, simple carbohydrate meal is right after activity. You want protein, but because your engine is revved up, if you I do baby food, it sounds really weird, but when I do long runs, because I can't digest a lot of things when I'm moving, I actually eat baby food. And it's really great to do, especially after, because my engine's revved and I just burn through those carbohydrates. Yeah, I would focus on building. Now, if you're not used to activity, start slowly, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, build every time you go out. Just don't go, I'm going to go out for my hour and a half walk. That could hurt you. I want you to come back and do it tomorrow, right? Because often what happens, who's done this? They get all gun ho, they start exercising, and then they're like, oh my God, I can't even sit on the toilet. I can't walk. I can't move, right? And then what happens? You don't do anything for days. So let's try not to do that. Give yourself some grace in this process and know that you will acclimate. Just don't keep doing the same thing, because our body adapts to that. You do want to vary it up. You want to do long, you want to do short, you want to do spicy, you want to do hills.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious about the weighted vests. I've been seeing a lot about them, people wearing them, but I wonder what's the impact on that extra weight if you have any joint issues? I know people with scoliosis probably should avoid that altogether, but how do you know if it's impacting hips, knees, the extra weight on the body?
Yeah, that's a great question. And for a weighted vest, I don't recommend. Normally beginners do it. I recommend that they develop some core strength. They have already had time on their feet. They've done some squats and some leg training. The weighted vest makes like a 20-minute or a half-hour walk more complicated. It makes it more breathless. If I go out with my weighted vest, I can't always have the conversation with my husband, because it's harder for me. So my weighted vest is an MRI, I think it's called, and I love it because it's got 3.5 pound or 3 pound weights, and you can add it in. So you could literally add 3 pounds at a time. But structurally, I find when I'm wearing the weighted vest, I tend to hunch over because it's too heavy. If that's the case, back off, because you're apt to get injured. And that's why I say you need a solid core, because you need to be able to hold yourself up with this weight. I do recommend putting the weight in the back to start, because that'll actually lean you backwards versus the weight in the front. Now, I've been doing this for a while. I've gotten up to 60 pounds, which is crazy. So it's balanced on me, but it's really hard because I always tend to lean forward.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, no, I'm just coming back from hamstring injuries. So yeah, I didn't want to I don't need any more sports injuries.
No. And I would get in the pool, honestly, to rehab that. You can jog in the pool, walk in the pool. I do cross country skiing in the deep end of the pool. I've trained for marathons in the water because I've been injured. So pool is great for that sort of recovery.
It's good to know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Lita. And again, if you need to ask, if you have any other questions, you can email her. Her contact's in on that VIP portal page. Thank you so much, Lita. I got my stretches in today. All right. So next up, we have Trevor. Trevor, I would love to see what you have planned for us today.
So awesome. So glad to be here. And I've learned so much from the speakers already. It's awesome. Karina and Lita, like such great information about nutrition and exercise. So it's great. And I'm glad that at the end of this, we can focus on food because that's really what heals the body. That's the biggest thing when it comes to improving the health and actually reversing type 2 diabetes. So today, what I'm going to show you is what I do for myself personally to help myself be at the optimum metabolic health. And so for individuals like yourself, or for individuals that are wanting to actually reverse type 2 diabetes, there's some very key aspects that we really want to focus in on. First is fat. One of the big things, if you're dealing with high levels of glucose, you need to focus in on fueling your body a little bit different. You need to actually focus on fats. And that's what I'm going to be focusing on today. I'm going to be showing you some really specific fats that you can add to your meals and talking about how you can actually change some of the meal compositions so you can actually reverse type 2 diabetes and improve your metabolic health, because that's what it's all about. When it comes to improving your weight, losing body fat, reversing type 2 diabetes, becoming metabolically healthier after 40, you need to look at the composition, not so much about cutting calories or quote unquote dieting, but it's more about actually the quality of the food that you're ingesting. And so in our system, what we really focus on is developing very specific meal plans. So I have a very example meal plan here of a client, Bobby. We create meal plans for our clients, but our clients get meal plans based on what's happening metabolically inside their body. So we actually do something called an oral glucose tolerance test. We can actually tell what's happening metabolically inside your body. And then based on that, we create meal plans. And so with this in mind, what I'm going to show you is one of my meals that I have from my own personal meal plan. Now, before I even have a meal, I actually take my fasting glucose level and my ketones as well, so that I can actually understand what's happening inside my body. So my recommendation, if you don't do this, you should start doing this. You should start testing your glucose levels at least after a 12-hour fast. So I'm going to do a live test here. So this is what I recommend. It's a Freestyle Libra. You can get it at most pharmacies. If you're in the States watching this, we recommend Keto Mojo. But essentially, I'm just going to prick my finger here and take a look at what my blood sugar levels are, because I think that is one of the most important critical components of metabolic health, is obviously controlling glucose. That's the one thing we always have control over. You do have control over your glucose levels all the time. And my glucose level right now, you can see it is at 4.0 millimoles per liter. And so a nice, healthy, low glucose levels. What you want to aim for is somewhere between at least 5.0 millimoles per liter or 90 milligrams per deciliter. If you can get your blood sugar levels there, that is awesome and very metabolically healthy. And then I'll go ahead and I'll actually test ketones, because I actually am a fat-fueled athlete. So again, there's a lot of misinformation about the ketogenic way of living, but I also look at ketones as an alternative energy source and a way to actually improve metabolic health. They make your metabolism more efficient. They make the mitochondria in the cells way more efficient. And so you can have more energy, you can do things, you'll feel better. If you're following Lita's exercise program, you can be able to exercise longer and harder. So I always check ketones before I eat as well, just so I can see what they're at. We'll do a quick ketone test on me here. I'm not sure what they are at. So 1.7. So that's metabolically really healthy for ketone levels. That's actually really good. You want to have your ketones, if you are doing a high fat, low carb way of eating, between 1 to 3 millimoles per liter. And so really healthy ketone production here. So now that I'm done testing, then I'm going to start making my meal. And I know exactly what I'm going to be making. So I have all the ingredients out here. I don't have to go and get them anywhere for you guys. First things first, we always start with a base of protein. So that's the first thing that we want to do. So I have here some organic ground beef. So that's usually what I start to break my fast with, is just an organic source of protein. Now, you don't have to use organic. It's not necessary, but if you're looking to reduce any of the hormones or any of the steroids, then I would definitely recommend going organic. And then you do need a weigh scale. So the big thing around this is you want to control protein, you do want to control protein because protein does actually stimulate insulin release from the pancreas. So you don't want to have too much protein. There's a lot of things around like the Atkins diet or like carnivore, which is like eat lots of meat. Not great for a type 2 diabetic if you're looking to control insulin, and which is obviously what we need to do as a type 2 diabetic. So I will always measure out my meat. For myself personally, I have about 3.5 ounces of meat every single time I eat a meal. And I eat about I eat 3 times a day. And so that's what I'll do for myself personally. My clients might get a little bit more or less depending on their age, weight, height, activity level. And so it's all based on your age, weight, height, and activity level that all these foods are measured in. So I've got 3.5 ounces, 2.67 ounces of meat. I'm not going to nitpick about the 0.15 ounces. And then what we're going to do is going to add in some spinach. And so I have some organic baby spinach here. Lots of great stuff with spinach. If you guys want to cut out the milk, that's awesome, because milk, obviously, we've been taught has calcium. You can replace that with spinach because spinach has a very much more absorbable form of calcium that your body can utilize really efficiently. A great form of antioxidants as well within spinach. And usually when I work with a client, I'll teach them we can do about 1.5 cups of spinach, but what I usually do is just take a handful or a couple handfuls and rip them up. Super simple, nothing really complicated. You can measure out a cup of spinach, but just for convenience sake, I'm just ripping it up and just putting it in the bowl. And so that's the rudimentary aspect of just creating a meal, or the first meal. Now, one of the things I like to do is add oils. Oils are actually one of the most, in therapeutic dosages, specifically cold pressed oils are extremely healthy for the body. And so I'm going to utilize 3 types of oils here. I've got something called Udo's oil. I don't know if you guys can see that there. Udo's oil essentially is a combination of 3, 6, 9 omegas, omega-3, 6, and 9 combinations. And very great. I've been using it since the early 2000s, probably 2000. Probably one of the most balanced forms of oils that you could put in your body. The other is hemp seed oil. So I'll be utilizing hemp seed oil as well. Gamma-linolenic acid is one of the most therapeutic oils that we can actually put in our body, or therapeutic fats. And then finally, flax seed oil. And so that's what that looks like there, flax seed oil. And so what I'm going to be using is 3 oils. Now, this is called fat combining. And so this is really important when you're taking a look at actually reducing glucose and driving down insulin in the body. So you want to combine the right types of fats together, right? So this is one of the secrets in our program, but fats in the right combination can help drive down insulin, drive down glucose levels so that you can actually reverse type 2 diabetes. So I'm going to use a tablespoon of each. I think that is extremely important that we have the therapeutic dosages of the cold pressed oils. Now, I think Karina was talking about seed oils earlier in the presentation, in the VIP presentation. Seed oils are very inflammatory. So they cause a lot of damage within the arterial walls of our body. And we don't want to use seed oils. So vegetable oils, canola oil, sunflower oil, safflower oil, all those oils, we are very inflammatory and we want to get rid of them. And we want to replace them with our therapeutic oils that I just showed you. And in terms of dosages, depends on, again, age, weight, height, activity level. But you want to start with at least a tablespoon to a couple tablespoons in each meal. And so that's something that you really want to do if you are type 2 diabetic. You're going to find that these oils give you lots of energy. Fats equal energy, right? And so a lot of us have been taught that fats are bad for us, that we have to stay away from fats. But that's the absolutely opposite. We want to focus on having the right types of fats come into our body so we can drive down glucose. We can rest our pancreas. That's the number one thing for type 2 diabetics, is to rest the pancreas. We want to make sure that we get our fats and we have our coming from oils. And then I just top it off with just a mustard. This is my personal preference. A lot of people, they may not like mustard. They might want hot sauce. They might want something else. They might want a high-fat, low-carb dressing that is something they can add in there. I'll add mustard. And then the last thing I'll add, which I totally forgot to do because I usually do this at the start, is I cut up an avocado. And so just a really easy avocado, monounsaturated fats. Again, an anti-inflammatory fat as well. I'll just scoop out an avocado, and then there you go. And then that's the meal. Super simple. Nothing really complicated about it, but it is really what it is all about when it comes to meals. It has to be simple, right? And I think there's a lot of, Karina could attest to this, Lita could attest to this, is that simple is better, right? You never want to make things complicated when it comes to meals, foods, exercise. We're all very busy individuals. We've got work life, family, we got business, we got stuff going on. Can't spend 6 to 7 hours in the kitchen making a meal. So literally this took me, guys, 10 minutes to make, if that. I think I was talking through this. So of course it takes a little longer when you're talking. But literally, I take this, eat it, done, and I move on to the next part of my day. And so that's really what I do. And then for what else I do is I usually just have a cup of green tea. And I'm not going to make a cup of green tea, but I'll have a cup of green tea with a little bit of butter and whipping cream added into it. So I understand that most people are like, they're like, okay, don't have dairy. There are a couple of dairies that you can have that are actually wonderful for the body. Butter is the number one dairy that I have most days that is extremely healthy. And what butter has is small chain fatty acids. And these small chain fatty acids gets converted into butyrate. And that drives down the inflammation in our gut. So it's very gut healthy. And the same thing with our real high fat whipping cream. It's got to be real high fat whipping cream though. It can't be like the canned stuff. That's full of sugar and hydrogenated oils. Got to be real high fat whipping cream. And then before I have my meal, I'll have called the pink drink. And so I'll make it for you guys really quickly here. So essentially in a glass, what you're going to do is you're going to take some pink Himalayan salt. And this is what I've been using since 2015. So just basically I do about a teaspoon of pink Himalayan salt in a glass of water along with apple cider vinegar. There it is right here. And so I'll usually, I won't really measure it out, but I'll just pour maybe 3 or 4 tablespoons in the glass and fill it up with water. And so this is my gallon of water that I have, and I usually drink about a gallon a day. The water, again, obviously really important. So that's just something that you guys want to do all the time, is keep hydrated throughout the day, especially if you're dealing with type 2 diabetes. But that's the pink drink. Kind of looks pink because of the pink salt. And yeah, and then so I'll have this first, I'll have the pink drink first, followed by the meal, and then I'll finish off with a cup of green tea with some butter and some whipped cream. Maybe I'll throw some MCT oil in there, but you can see as I progress through this process, there's lots of different types of fats that I'm ingesting into my body. Hence, my body's getting lots of energy, inflammation is coming down, gut health is getting better, and I feel great throughout the entire day. So that is pretty much my routine when it comes to the morning meal after I break my fast, after about a 16-hour fast. Any questions, thoughts, anything that you guys want to ask?
Trevor, that pink drink sounds awful. I'm sorry. High salt and...
So yeah, it's so good. I've been doing it since 2015. I know the taste is not that great. It's very bitter. You can, if you wanted to, for example, put some lemon in it to balance it out. But it's definitely, when you first drink it, you're like, holy crow, right? To be honest, like within 2 to 3 weeks, it tastes sweet. Your taste buds change actually to that drink.
Okay, so you can't shot it and then drink water, right?
I would recommend definitely diluting it, because the thing with apple cider vinegar, because of this acetic acid, it can destroy your enamel on your teeth, right? So you never want to shoot apple cider vinegar, even though some people want to do that way to get it down fast. It can really destroy the enamel on your teeth. So I would recommend always diluting it in as much water as possible. You can always drink it through a straw as well, and so that it doesn't touch your teeth. But for me, I just down it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Actually, can you show us your meal? We saw the side, but can you
Sure, yeah. As I was talking, I was trying to mix it all together. And so that's what it looks like at the end. It's just, our philosophy is keep it simple, Simon. You always want to combine all your ingredients in one bowl. That's it. Because again, like, why would we want to have 3 or 4 different bowls going on and trying to make all this complicated stuff? It's just very simple to put everything together in one bowl. And then just there you go. And then there's other types of meals that we have. Obviously, it's not just this meal, but that's the crux of the program is keep it simple, Simon. Yeah, and so if you guys are interested in learning more about that, what you can do is check out my website at www.biohackthefat.com, and we have all of our systems there that you guys can check out so that you understand exactly how we can help you reverse type 2 diabetes. And we have helped so many people over 5-6 years drive down their blood sugar levels quite fast. I've worked with one individual who was on, ironically, this is his first meal plan, Bobby, who had, I think, a fasting glucose level of 230 milligrams per deciliter. And within 3 or 4 days, he was getting it down to fairly normal levels. Not 100% normal, healthy levels, but he was off some of the medication, the metformin he had cut in half in 3 days. So it was very powerful. This way of eating, I'm a little bit biased, but it's one of the most powerful things that you could do for the human body, 100%.
And your dish, actually, it's not just fat. I know it's high fat, but you've got the fiber in there with the spinach, yes. Right? You have your protein in there, right? The lean or your ground beef. So yes. It's not like only fat, it's balanced.
It's balanced, yeah. Yeah, 100%. I love that you bring that up, actually, because one of the things about this is a ketogenic way of eating. There's a lot of misinformation about that. And a lot of people think, it's just butter and bacon all day long, which I don't agree with. I think 100% we need to balance out our meals. You need to have the fiber. You need to have the greens. You need to have those oils. You need to have the protein. Everything comes into the body in one. Where's this thing too here? And Karina was saying something about the fiber or the prebiotics, and psyllium husk is something that I have every single day. I add psyllium husks to my eggs so that I can get the prebiotics in my body really fast. And so, yeah, it's about combining the right foods together, right? Not just, so that's why I'm like, okay, carnivore, we just eat meat and fat, right? We were missing components, right? And so I always think about a well-formulated ketogenic meal plan for my clients. That's what we create, because it has to be well balanced, or else it's not going to be sustainable, right? We're looking at sustainability, and that's what we really want to focus on, is the balancing of everything in that meal.
Wow. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. And I appreciate that you talked a little bit about calories there. So when you put those meal plans together, do you show the calories to demonstrate that you with all the fat, I suspect you're getting a little higher calorie count than most people are familiar with, but still seeing amazing results?
Yeah, absolutely. I think calories, there's a misnomer around calories, right? Like, we never want to cut calories. We always want to make sure we have the right amount of calories for that body, especially activity levels, right? For example, if one of your clients, you're exercising, we're not going to give him or her a 1,200 calorie diet, right? Because that's not going to be sustainable, not going to be realistic for long-term health. And so for example, Bobby here has 2,300 calories, 197 grams of fat, 20 grams of net carbs, and 99 grams of protein. So when we calculate our calories macros for our clients, usually what I like to see is, I don't really take a look too much at the calories, although that's part of it. But the majority of what I look at is fats and proteins. Our fat's close to 200 grams for our men. Some ladies will be 150 to 170 grams of fat. For the protein, I always like to see it under 100. That's ideal for most individuals who are wanting to try to reverse type 2 diabetes and drive down glucose levels. So that's ideal for most individuals. Again, that's just a generalization. Like, for example, if you're coming into my program, I'm going to be doing a complete macro analysis so that I can understand how much fats and calories and proteins your body needs, right? So it's not a generic thing that we give everybody. It's very personalized and one-on-one, because in terms of just making sure that we reverse type 2 diabetes in your body, it has to be personalized. It has to be that very specific macronutrients for your body, right? Not just for everybody, but for your body. So that's something that we really take seriously when we work with somebody one-on-one.
Thank you. Any more questions or comments?
Yes. Regarding oils, how do you feel about avocado oil for cooking? I don't know if Karina or Trevor.
Yeah, avocado oil is amazing. Again, pretty close to olive oil in terms of compositions and the types of fats that are found in there. However, we never want to cook with cold pressed oils. We never want to cook with avocado oil, olive oil. We only want to make sure that we're either cooking, if you're wanting to make, for example, a chicken stir fry, to make it either with coconut oil, like this, grease up the pan with coconut oil, or butter. Because those two have really high smoke points, and then we don't actually create any rancid fat molecules, right? We don't want to cause any toxicity. It's much like the lemon water that Karina was talking about. So we never want to pour hot water on lemon, because it really doesn't do us any justice. Same thing with cooking oils. We never want to cook with these types of oils. As I knock things over.
I'm just
and I have an interesting, so high cholesterol also runs in my family. And when the kids were smaller, they had dairy intolerance. So I was using, this is going back 10 years, I was using the plant-based butters. But my cholesterol spiked. And when I went back to using real butter, my cholesterol's gone down without doing anything else. So I thought that was quite interesting.
Yeah, butter is an amazing food. It is it's so underutilized and very talked down on, because we've been taught, hey, don't have saturated fats, right? But you're correct. Plant-based butter, probably full of chemicals, additives, those types of things. This is not great for the body. With butter, there's nothing, when you eat high-fat foods, it doesn't affect cholesterol levels. Cholesterol is basically a healing agent of the body. What cholesterol is your body creates cholesterol to help drive down inflammation. So if you're eating foods that cause inflammation, your body's going to actually increase cholesterol production. So that plant-based butter probably caused some type of inflammatory response within your body, and hence your body created more cholesterol. And then we switched over to butter. Butter has no effect on cholesterol because it's an anti-inflammatory food. And so your body then reduced cholesterol. And so our bodies make cholesterol whether or not we eat high fat or low fat. It's just your body makes about 3,000 milligrams of cholesterol a day. But cholesterol is dependent on inflammatory conditions that are happening within your body. So we reduce inflammation, we can reduce cholesterol.
Yeah. But Merritt, I think you bring up a very good point in all of this is that we do need to keep in mind that or at least I'll specifically talk about me, is that when we talk about food or exercise or whatever, it's very bio-individual, right? And so you need to know how your body's working, and you found out this versus that worked. And so when we talk about healthy eating and what we recommend, it's still, you need to be aware of your body and know what you eat and make that connection to how you not only function throughout the day, but how you feel, because it is very bio-individual. And you may find out that you have sensitivities. And I don't know if Trevor's test covers that, but you brought up a very good point in all of these discussions, is that it's very bio-individual. And if you're aware of your body and aware of how you feel, that will also propel you forward on your journey and adapting to you and testing your numbers. Like I tested Trevor today while we were on the call, like knowing what foods impact your glucose, whether you're wearing a GCM or you're testing multiple times throughout the day, because everybody can respond differently.